I'm Elizabeth Moore, and I just turned 28 this year. People often say this is the age when a woman truly understands herself, but honestly, I'm not so sure. I got married at 23, which means I've now spent 5 years under the same roof with a man named Brian Moore. We have a son named Liam, who just turned 4 not long ago. That was the one day of the month I actually felt like I could breathe. Watching him laugh, hugging his brand new fire truck, shouting, "Mommy, I'm a firefighter!" And Brian, 30 years old, a husband who once seemed perfect when we were in love. I still remember the day he knelt down and proposed in a crowded park, his eyes shining and hands trembling slightly. Back then, I believed I was the luckiest woman in the world. But things started to change. Right after the wedding, before long, Brian went from being warm and gentle to controlling and harsh. I'm not saying he became violent. No, it wasn't that. But the control, the coldness, and the words that caught in my throat, those were what tormented me over the years. Brian has a younger sister named Haley, just 21. I used to think she was cute, carefree, and a little childish, but everything changed the moment I officially became part of the Moore family. Haley started showing up at our house nearly every day, without warning. One time I was giving Liam a bath and heard the front door swing open, followed by that all-too-familiar voice. "Brian, I'm here again, Tildy." No knocking. No greeting me. She always acted like I didn't exist. At first, I held it in. I believed if I treated her kindly, Haley would eventually be more thoughtful. But no, she began to treat our home like her personal hotel. Never helped, never thanked. Just sat on her phone all day, calling Brian out to watch movies and snack together, leaving me alone in the kitchen with a pile of cold dishes. I didn't dare speak up, because Brian always defended her. The moment I sighed, he'd immediately turn to me and say, "Can't you stop being so sensitive? She's my sister." Eventually, I learned to stay silent, just to keep the peace. But neither Haley nor Brian knew was that I wasn't the weak housewife they imagined. Before I got married, I was the CEO of a well-known handmade crafts company based in Utah. I once stood in front of a packed auditorium, presenting our expansion plan into international markets, and received thunderous applause. I chose to step down from that role after giving birth to Liam, handing over day-to-day operations to a trusted friend so I could focus on family. But I remained the legal owner, still receiving monthly profits, and occasionally doing part-time work remotely. Brian only knew I had a little side job. He never asked more. Maybe he thought I couldn't possibly be making much. I kept that secret, not out of fear, but because I wanted to see who they really thought I was. And I'll never forget what Brian said just a month ago when I suggested contributing to buying a new family car. "Who do you think you are talking about money? You just stay home and cook, look after our kid. I'm the one making the money." I smiled at him, but inside, something shattered. Everything became even clearer one Saturday evening as I was preparing a simple family dinner, Liam's favorite beef stew. I had marinated it carefully since early morning, hoping for just one peaceful night at least. A dinner without Haley's loud laughter echoing through the living room. But I was being naive. Barely 2 minutes after the door opened, Haley barged in. No knocking, no warning, with that same cheerful voice. "Brian, I brought snacks. There's a hot new movie out tonight." I was wearing my apron, holding a bread knife, and just stood there, staring. She didn't glance at me even once. Walked straight to the living room, threw her bag on the couch, and turned on the TV. Brian walked out of the room, face lit up like sunshine, threw his arm around her. "Hey, it's been a while. Stay for dinner tonight." A while? She had just been here yesterday. I swallowed my frustration, said nothing. Liam was at the table, coloring his superhero book, completely unaware of the scene unfolding. That night, I served 3 dishes. including a special caramel flan I had made for Liam because he had earned his very first A in preschool. I had promised, if you do well in class, Mommy will make you a flan just like at the bakery. And he had smiled with so much excitement, waiting all day. I placed the flan in front of him, reminding, Liam, this is yours, just for you, okay? He squealed. Wow, thank you, Mommy. Less than 2 minutes later, Haley glanced around, then pointed at the dessert. That looks so good, I want to try a bite. Before I could say anything, Brian reached over, slid the plate away from Liam, and pulled it toward his sister with a grin. Let Haley have it, buddy, she just got here. Liam froze. His eyes widened, then dropped, his lips pressed together. He didn't cry, but I saw the way he gripped his crayon tightly, then gently set it down. It was the quietest kind of heartbreak I'd ever seen. I stepped forward, forcing my voice to stay calm. That was Liam's. He's been waiting all day just to eat that. Brian snapped his fingers. Then buy another one. What's the big deal? My sister wants it. Let her have it. I clenched my teeth, trying to stay composed. If she's an adult, Haley should be able to give it up for a kid. And you should teach your sister how to behave. The room went silent. Haley looked up, eyes wide. Are you saying I'm rude or something? Brian stood up and slammed his hand on the table. Elizabeth, that's enough. You always start drama with Haley. I'm tired of putting up with you. If you can't deal with this, then maybe we should just get divorced. Liam, scared, hid behind my leg. I could feel him trembling. Looked at Brian. All I wanted to ask was, since when did you forget you're also a father? But I didn't say a word. I bent down, picked up Liam, and walked away from the table, ignoring Haley's voice behind me. Wait, I finished it already. No more cake? I held my son close as we walked to the bedroom. He sat on the bed and whispered, Mom, can we make another cake tomorrow? I'm not sad. I smiled, though my chest felt heavy. At that moment, I knew this wasn't just my story anymore. I had put up with a lot, but Liam didn't deserve this. After putting him to bed, I returned to the dining area to clean up the mess those two left behind. Brian and Haley were watching a movie, giggling like nothing ever happened. As I finished washing the dishes, Brian turned to me and tossed out a line. By the way, don't think I haven't noticed. How do you even have that much money, or are you hiding some secret stash? I stood still, drying my hands, then looked him straight in the eyes and smiled. You want the truth? Just wait and see. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The sky was gray, just like my mood. Brian was still snoring on the couch. Haley had disappeared sometime in the night. I quietly tidied up the living room and prepared a simple breakfast for Liam, toast with peanut butter and a warm glass of milk, his favorite. Liam came running out of the bedroom, hugging his old stuffed bear. He climbed into his chair, beaming. Mom, I'm gonna put more money in my piggy bank today. Yesterday, my teacher said whoever saved the most will get a sticker. I smiled, patting his head. Of course, sweetie, I'll help you stick it on your wall. After breakfast, Liam ran to the corner of the room where his blue piggy bank sat neatly on the bookshelf. But then, I heard a snap, followed by a startled little cry. Mom! I rushed over, heart pounding. The piggy bank had shattered into pieces. All the coins and little bills Liam had carefully saved, completely gone. Liam dropped to his knees, tears welling in his eyes. Where's my money, Mommy? Who broke my piggy bank? I pulled him into my arms, comforting him while scanning the room. Everything looked untouched, except I noticed the living room window wasn't locked. A chilly draft slipped in through the crack, brushing the back of my neck. I stood up and walked to the bedroom. Brian was buttoning up his shirt, getting ready for work. I spoke, trying to keep my voice steady. Did you see anyone touch Liam's piggy bank? It was smashed and all the money's gone. Brian didn't even look up. Oh, Haley said she needed some cash for gas and groceries. She saw the piggy bank, and I told her to just take it. It's no big deal. I froze. He said it like it was nothing. I took a few steps toward him, my voice shaking. You said, just take it? That was money Liam saved up all year. Do you have any idea how much that meant to him? Brian sighed, turned around, his tone annoyed. Elizabeth, stop blowing things out of proportion. It was just a few dozen bucks. What do kids even know about money? That moment, I couldn't hold it in any longer. So grown-ups now have the right to take whatever they want from their kid without even asking? And you don't see anything wrong with letting your sister barge into the house, smash his piggy bank, take his money, and disappear? Liam stood behind the door, his eyes red, lips pressed tight. I knew he was trying not to cry, but that moment, it pierced right through my little boy's heart. Brian pointed at me, face flushed. You're always nitpicking, always making everything a big deal. If you're so miserable, just get a divorce. But don't drag the kid into your drama. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I looked into his eyes and saw it clearly. He didn't see me or our child as family anymore. He only cared about Haley and whatever was convenient for him. I bent down, picked up Liam, and whispered, "It's okay, sweetheart. Mommy's here." He wrapped his arms around my neck, his voice trembling. "Mommy, my piggy bank died." I held him tighter. My heart felt like it shattered into pieces. Right then, I realized, if I didn't do something, the one who would keep suffering would be my son. As for me, I had grown used to the pain, but Liam didn't deserve this. I looked back at Brian, no longer with pleading eyes. If you think arguing in front of our son is a show, you're wrong. This is the first time I haven't stayed silent, and it'll be the last. Without waiting for his reaction, I carried Liam into the bedroom and closed the door. After that, I packed only what we needed. My hands didn't shake. I had waited too long for this. The moment I would finally stop tolerating. "Outside!" Brian yelled. "Where are you going? You think you can survive on your own?" I didn't respond. I just looked at Liam, and even though he couldn't fully understand, he gave me a small nod. I walked out the door, and I didn't look back. I took Liam to my parents' house in Salt Lake City, just 2 train stops from our old place. My mom opened the door. She didn't ask a single question when she saw my pale face and puffy eyes. She just pulled me into her arms. Liam clung to his grandpa and whispered, "I don't want to go back to that house." I didn't sleep at all that night. I sat in my childhood room, listening to my son's soft breathing, thinking about everything that had happened, and everything that still didn't make sense. Something was off. Brian wasn't just distant and selfish, he was hiding something. And Haley, the way she came and went as she pleased, shamelessly smashed Liam's piggy bank and left without a word, that wasn't random. The next morning, while my mom prepared breakfast, I opened my laptop and logged into the secondary bank account I had quietly set up years ago, where I'd been transferring part of my income from the company each month. The balance was untouched. No one had gotten into it. I breathed a little easier, then felt a chill crawl down my spine. I remembered something. For the past few days, Haley had been showing up during the day when Liam and I were out at school and work. Brian always left the house after me, so who let her in? Who left her alone in the house? I called my close friend, Amelia, a civil attorney and someone I'd trusted when drafting company ownership agreements before getting married. After hearing my story, Amelia sighed. "Liz, this smells fishy. There's a good chance they're trying to get access to your assets. He might have already prepared the divorce papers. You need to be careful." I asked Amelia to send me a sample prenuptial agreement and check whether Brian was listed on any of my accounts or legal documents. She promised to look into it that same day. That afternoon, as I was folding Liam's clothes, my dad came in from the garden and said someone had stopped by. I walked into the living room, but no one was there. The backyard gate, however, was slightly open. My dad tilted his head and said, "I heard the lock clicking a little while ago. You should check your things." I rushed to my room. My suitcase had been moved out of place. The small wallet inside my handbag on the corner desk was wide open. I checked. Thankfully, my bank card was still on me, but the USB drive that held a copy of my company ownership contract was gone. I felt a chill down my spine. I immediately checked the doorbell camera app on my mom's phone. Just as I feared, Haley. She was wearing a gray hoodie and a baseball cap and had entered the house while my dad was in the garden and I was upstairs. Not long after, I got a call from an unknown number. I put it on speaker. "Hey, it's Brian. Don't think I don't know you're hiding money. You think I'm stupid?" Haley saw the USB. "If you don't want things to get messy, you'd better sign those divorce papers I sent." I froze. How long have you been preparing those divorce papers?" He let out a cold laugh. "Since you started getting difficult and suspiciously quiet." I gripped the phone tightly. "Then you should also know, I'm not the obedient Elizabeth you used to control." I hung up. That night, I returned to the old house alone. Liam was sleeping over at his grandparents'. I stood in front of the door, unlocked it with my spare key, and stepped into the dark. No sound, until I heard a voice echoing from the kitchen. I crept closer, my heart pounding in my chest. "It's not here. I already checked that spot. Kevin, are you sure she didn't take everything with her? I can't get into her house again." It was Haley's voice, talking on the phone while rummaging through drawers. I stood behind the door, gripping my phone tightly. I recorded the entire conversation. When she opened the fridge, I quietly stepped backward, closed the door, and left. I didn't need a confrontation. I needed proof. And now I had it. I returned to my parents' house just before midnight, shivering. Not from the cold, but from what I had just witnessed. I opened the door quietly, not wanting to wake Liam, but there he was, still awake, curled up in Grandpa's lap, eyes wide, holding the photo book I made for his birthday. "Mommy, where were you? You were gone so long," Liam asked in a tiny voice. I knelt down, kissed his forehead, and hugged him tight. "Mommy just went to find some answers. And now I've found them." The next morning, I sat at the breakfast table with my parents, holding the backup USB I'd recovered before leaving the old house for the last time. My dad, Thomas, a calm and principled man, pushed a cup of tea toward me. "What are you planning to do next?" I took a deep breath. "I'm going to file for divorce, but I won't let them dodge responsibility. I have to protect Liam. And I have to reclaim myself." My mom, Susan, gently held my hand. She had seen every tear I'd hidden over the years. She didn't blame me for keeping the pain to myself. She just said, "You've been silent for too long. It's time to speak up." I told them the full truth, that I was still the legal CEO of a well-known handmade goods company in Utah, that I'd never truly quit, only stepped back to raise Liam and work remotely. I also shared about the separate savings account I'd set up for my son, where I'd been depositing part of my income each month since he was born. My dad nodded quietly. "Well done, sweetheart. Now keep every document, every copy of the contracts, all the account records, and bring them to the lawyer. Even your recording is vital evidence." I knew he was right. You can't walk into a legal battle empty-handed, especially when Brian and Haley had clearly been plotting in advance. Even worse, I wasn't sure what they were capable of doing next. I spent the entire day organizing documents, savings records, bank statements, and an official letter from the company confirming I still held executive authority. Amelia, my friend and also an attorney, agreed to represent me in the divorce proceedings. That afternoon, Liam played outside in the yard with Grandpa, bringing along his little toy cars and his favorite cowboy hat. Watching him laugh so brightly, I felt a pang of guilt rise inside me. If only I had been more decisive earlier, maybe Liam wouldn't have had to endure all that silent pain. After dinner, my mom held me for a long moment, then gently said, "Whether you're a CEO or just a mother, what matters most is that you're protecting your son. That's what truly defines who you are." That night, as I was helping Liam get ready for bed, he suddenly asked, "Mom, does our new house have my own room?" I paused. "Of course it does. A room just for you? And a shelf where you can show off all your model cars?" Liam's face lit up. "Then can we stay here forever, Mom? With Grandma and Grandpa? It's more fun here." I pulled him into my arms as tears quietly rolled down my cheeks. Not because I was sad, but because he had said the one thing I hadn't yet found the courage to say out loud. In that moment, I knew I had made the right choice by leaving. The next morning, Brian called. I didn't answer. Less than an hour later, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. Messages came in one after another. "Where are you? Don't do anything reckless. I know you still love me. Return the USB and all documents immediately." I sighed and powered off my phone. There was nothing left to say. Brian was no longer the man I once trusted as a husband, and Haley, she hadn't been a sister-in-law to me in a long time. They saw me as a vault, a financial backup plan. But they forgot one thing. A mother who stayed silent for her child can also rise up and fight for him. I looked in the mirror and met my own gaze. Eyes that once looked tired now glowed with resolve. Elizabeth Moore was back. 3 days after leaving that house, I received a mysterious envelope addressed to me, no return address. Inside was a photocopy of the divorce papers, all filled out with Brian's information, along with a messy handwritten note. "Sign this. The sooner the better. Otherwise, I'll find another way to take back what's mine." I clutched the paper tightly. In that moment, I didn't feel fear anymore. Instead, I felt strangely relieved. I decided to return to the old house one last time, not to beg or plead. I was going there to retrieve something I had never tried to capture before. Proof of who Brian really was when no one else was looking. I called Amelia to ask about the legality of recording a conversation. She said, "As long as you're part of the conversation, you have the right to record it. Just make sure to keep the original file and don't edit it." That night, I tucked Liam into bed early at my mother's house. I prepped a mini voice recorder and slipped it into my coat pocket. My phone had a recording app running in the background. I wore a high-neck top and tied my hair up neatly to avoid revealing any device. I arrived at the house, the one I once called home, a little after 8 p.m. The lights were all on. I knocked. Brian opened the door, his expression a mix of surprise and suspicion. "Why are you here?" I didn't waste time. "I came to collect my personal things and discuss the divorce agreement. There are some papers that need both our signatures." He nodded and stepped aside to let me in. But the moment I entered the living room, Brian's tone shifted instantly. He closed the door behind me, folded his arms, and gave me a slow once-over. "I know you have money. Stop pretending to be poor. Planning to run off with everything, huh?" I shrugged. "If you think I have money, why didn't you fight to keep your wife instead of throwing her and your son out on the street?" Brian's face tightened. He stepped closer, his voice low. "Cut the act, Elizabeth. Just tell me straight. How much do you have? How many accounts? How many cards? Hand them all over. Or else, I'll make this a whole lot messier." I smiled, a calm, detached smile like watching a bad comedy. "And what are you going to do? Call Haley over again or break another one of your son's piggy banks?" Brian slammed his hand on the table, shaking the water glass. "Don't bring my sister into this. She did it for me, for this family." "Family?" I laughed bitterly. "You say that like Liam never even existed in this house." He froze for a moment, then shouted, "She's just a kid, and you always want to control everything. If you won't hand over the money, I'm filing the divorce papers first thing tomorrow, and I'll tell the court you hid assets and tried to run." I pulled a copy of the divorce petition from my pocket and placed it on the table, speaking slowly. "I know you prepared this long before any argument even happened. It has your signature. but not mine. Brian's face went pale as he reached for it, but I stopped him. I'm keeping this, and the recording of tonight's conversation. He froze. I looked him straight in the eye. If you threaten me one more time, I'll hand everything over to the lawyer, and you won't just lose me, you'll lose the right to see Liam, too. Brian's face shifted from anger to panic, then to defensiveness. I just want what's fair. I'm your husband. I have a right to know what you have. I nodded. And I'm Liam's mother. I have a right to protect him from people who don't deserve him. I stood, picked up my personal items and the divorce copy, and calmly walked toward the door. Brian shouted behind me, "Go ahead and leave, and don't ever come back here." I turned around and for the first time really looked at the house I had poured my heart into building, then nodded. I won't come back. This place died the day you chose someone else over your own son. I shut the door, firmly, without hesitation, and for the first time in years I felt like I was stepping out of the shadows. I walked away from the old house under a cold night sky, but inside I felt as if I had just cut out a poisonous tumor from my heart. That feeling of freedom. I never thought I could reach it. By the time I got back to my parents' house, it was almost 11 p.m. The porch light was still on. My mom opened the door and pulled me into a hug the moment she saw my tired face and tear-stained eyes. She didn't ask a thing. She just said, "Come in, sweetheart. No one here will ever throw you out." I stepped inside and saw Liam fast asleep on the sofa, using Grandpa's belly as a pillow, holding tightly onto the family dog, Cooper, a fluffy dog over 10 years old. Despite his age, Cooper was loyal, gentle, and especially fond of Liam. Liam smiled in his sleep. I sat beside him, gently running my fingers through his soft hair. Then he murmured softly, "Cooper is my little brother. We're not going to share our toys with anyone." I laughed through my tears. Somehow, Cooper, the lazy old dog who usually just lounged around, had become Liam's little brother. But I understood. Here, with his grandparents, with Cooper, and in this old lavender-scented garden, Liam was finally just a happy little boy. The next morning, we all sat down for breakfast together. My father, Mr. Thomas, set down his newspaper and looked at me over his reading glasses. "If you're sure about the divorce, I'll handle all the paperwork with Amelia. You're not in this alone." I nodded. "I'm sure, Dad. I don't want Liam growing up in a house where love is just for show." My mom poured more milk into Liam's cup and smiled gently. "You've sacrificed enough, Elizabeth. It's time to live for yourself now." After breakfast, Liam pulled me toward the backyard. "Mom, can me and Cooper build a treehouse?" I laughed, ruffling his hair. "If Grandpa says yes, we can start today." Liam's grandpa nodded immediately. And just like that, that morning was spent with the three of us. A retired man, a healing single mom, and a 4-year-old boy, drawing up the blueprint for their first ever treehouse. Cooper lay under the tree, tongue out, yawning contentedly. I couldn't remember the last time I laughed so freely. No more slamming tables, no more condescending looks, no more dinners where I was the invisible servant. Here, I could finally be me. A mother, a daughter, and a woman who deserves to be loved. That night, after Liam's bath, he hugged me tightly and whispered, "Mom, can we stay here forever? This house has yummy food, Grandma and Grandpa, Cooper, and you smile here too." I choked back tears and nodded. "Yeah, we're staying. We're not going anywhere." My son didn't need a mansion. He didn't need a stolen flan. He didn't need a father who defended everyone but him. He just needed a warm home where his mom didn't cry and where Cooper, his little brother, always listened. That night, I wrote down the entire story, not to tell anyone, but to remind myself. I made it through. I sent an email to Amelia, officially confirming my intent to proceed with the divorce. The voice recordings, the fake divorce petition from Brian, the security footage of Haley sneaking into the house. All had been backed up and were ready. I knew Brian wouldn't let go easily. But I wasn't that silent woman in the kitchen anymore. I was Elizabeth Moore, the woman who once built a business from nothing. And I would rebuild this life. This time, for me and my son. After the final time I left the house I once called home, my phone rang non-stop. In less than 48 hours, over 200 messages and calls came flooding in from Brian, starting with threats. "You'll regret it if you don't cooperate." Then turning to begging. "Can we talk, please?" Then desperation. "I messed up. Please don't destroy everything." I didn't respond to a single one, not because I was cold, but because I knew silence was the loudest statement I could make. Meanwhile, my lawyer Amelia sent me the final investigation report. Every word felt like a final door closing on my past. Haley, the perfect little sister in Brian's eyes, had been addicted to online gambling since she was 19. Her credit card debt was massive, and she had taken out sketchy payday loans. Brian, ever the sacrificing older brother, had co-signed over $28,000 in debt for her. I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Brian once said I was wasteful for buying Liam a box of coloring books, and yet he nearly used all of my assets to put out the fire caused by his sister's gambling. He didn't need a wife. He needed a walking wallet. My lawyer sent a formal letter demanding Brian sign an agreement to sever all financial ties, except the divorce terms. I'd retain full custody of Liam, he'd pay $340 per month in child support, and he'd have no access to any accounts or assets in my name. If he refused, all the evidence of collusion and theft would be brought to court. Within a day, Brian signed every paper without saying a word. I didn't feel victorious, I just felt free. I had finally closed a chapter where I'd lost myself for far too long. 2 weeks later, I returned to the company headquarters. The employees were stunned when I walked into the conference room. No longer the remote advisor they once knew, but the official CEO. I stood before the board, back straight, gaze steady. "We're expanding to the west, and I'll be leading that project myself." No one questioned it, because they knew the Elizabeth Moore they once looked up to had returned. I rented a small house near my parents', a quiet place, with a garden just big enough to grow cucumbers and tomatoes, and most importantly, a tall tree, perfect for building a treehouse for Liam and Cooper. That night, Liam sat in his new room, holding his coloring book, and looked up at me. "Mom, when I grow up, can I be a CEO like you?" I smiled and hugged him. "If you become a CEO, I'll be your first investor. But only if you promise to always be grateful to the people who truly love you." Liam nodded eagerly, then whispered in my ear, "I love you, and I love Cooper too, but Mom, don't tell my friends my little brother is a dog, okay? That's kinda weird." I burst out laughing, feeling my heart, for the first time in years, overflowing with genuine love. I heard that after the divorce was finalized, Brian was disowned by his parents, not for losing his wife, but because they found out he had used their savings account to pay off Haley's debt. The two siblings now live together in a small town, unstable, avoiding people they once knew. I don't feel triumphant. Everyone must face the consequences of their own choices. As for me, I chose to rise, to start over, and to live not to prove anything to anyone, but so that Liam could see a mother who never gave up on life. I am Elizabeth Moore, a woman who was once treated like a shadow in her own home, pushed out of the very place she built with love. But today, I'm rebuilding a whole new life. With truth, with love, and with courage. And I know for sure the road ahead for Liam and me has never looked brighter. Elizabeth's story is a powerful reminder that women were not born to endure, but to live in a way that honors their true worth. In real life, many mothers and wives have stayed silent out of love, but that silence should never be taken for granted. When betrayed or hurt, the greatest strength isn't in revenge. It's in rising up to protect your children and yourself, just like Elizabeth did. Because real happiness doesn't come from others, it begins with the courage to choose your own path. What do you think of Elizabeth's powerful journey? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more deep, emotional, real-life stories about family, marriage, and resilience.